How's it going, guys? Nerdy Gamer here. This is going to be my top 10 favorite games of 2025. Obviously, this is kind of a video that's been kind of well delayed, and unfortunately, due to market circumstances, this video obviously got delayed for a lot of reasons. However, since I know it's kind of been on demand for a long time, and since I kind of do these videos every single year, I figured this time I'd actually do one on 2025. Now, obviously, I picked 10 games that for you guys, and some of the games I have played, and of course, there were other games I could have played that I could have put probably more if I wanted to. Unfortunately, due to circumstances and the fact that I didn't really put a lot of time with a lot of games, especially due to work, events going on during my life, I didn't exactly play a lot of games that I would have expected. But I did play about at least these games that I selected on this list, and hopefully you guys really enjoy what I picked out. So without further ado, let's get started with the countdown. Number 10, Rusty Rabbit. Out of all the games I actually got to play this year, Rusty Rabbit was actually a game that fell under the radar for me, especially the fact that I knew nothing about this game. I knew about this game from watching YouTubers play it and seeing walkthroughs, and then the fact that Young Yaya actually voices the main character of this game. I thought that was kind of cool that one of my favorite YouTubers got to voice a character in this game, since the fact that I really enjoy his content. Now, obviously, I've been playing this game, and I actually got the chance to play this game when it was available on Steam, and the fact that this game actually fascinated me a little bit, considering the fact that you actually can play as this little cute rabbit, and the fact you actually can operate machines and go around, do different objectives and do missions. This game overall is actually a lot of fun. It's pretty much like a Metroidvania kind of game, but it felt more like more so like a Mega Man game, more so than a Metroid game. But honestly, the way the game is and how the story mode is and the objectives that you kind of do, it's actually pretty cool. And the cutscenes with all the bunnies and all the rabbits, I think it's still pretty cool in itself, and each of them are well designed and everything. I also like the main character and the fact that he goes from a cute bunny to a gruff kind of voice. I think it's just kind of interesting and really funny. So honestly, I think this game is a lot of fun. It's definitely one of those games that I probably would say out of all the indie games that have come out this year, this is probably one of the best ones. Number 9, SpongeBob and the Titans of Tide. SpongeBob and the Titans of Tide was actually a pretty good SpongeBob game, especially when I played a lot of the other SpongeBob games over the years, from old to new, from Battle for Bikini Bottom to the movie game to even now even playing a lot of the newer SpongeBob games. I find that THQ has gotten a lot better with making a lot of the new SpongeBob games by kind of just seeing what they've kind of worked on with the new Battle for Bikini Bottom remake, which I thought was actually a really good remake, and also with Cosmic Shake. Cosmic Shake, I really felt like they definitely did a great job with that game, and seeing as how they actually saw what they did with Cosmic Shake and made it a lot better than what they did with this game, you could tell based on this game they did a lot better with it. They kind of seen the flaws with that game and just made it 100 times better. The bosses are a lot of fun. It's very unique with some of the areas, and a lot of the objectives you get to do is actually a lot of fun. I honestly think it's definitely a really good SpongeBob game, and I really like to see THQ make a lot other SpongeBob games like this in the future. Number 8, Bye Sweet Carol. If you guys have followed my channel throughout the year, that I actually did a review on Bye Sweet Carol. This was a game that I gotta say, out of all the indie games I played this year, that this was definitely one of my favorite ones. This game, honestly, was a game I was really excited to play since the very beginning, ever since it first got announced. The idea of a Disney film that was set into a horror game I thought was actually an excellent idea, and I was completely sold on the idea. Ever since then, I just really like the way the game looks. The fact that it's like a traditional Disney film, but it's a horror game, it's just interesting to me. And the game looks fantastic, from the hand-drawn elements to the fact that it has a lot of jump scares, and from beginning to end, this game is just fantastic. The only thing I don't like about this game is the fact that, yeah, it could be a little bit jaggy, and obviously it does suffer from a lot of frame rate issues, and it does lag at times. But honestly, in terms of the way how you play this game, whether you're playing it on the Switch, you're playing on a PC, which is basically what I did, I played it on PC. But if you're playing on any other version, this game overall is a lot of fun to play, and it is just an excellent game to play. It's definitely one of my favorite indie games to play, and I really like to see more of these kind of games come out, since we've been really needing a lot of these games for a long time, and I feel like it's well deserved. Especially the fact that, especially from Disney, which I feel like Disney needs to make a lot more games like this where they use the hand-drawn elements, kind of like the games that they used to make back in the day, but who knows. Maybe one day Disney will do that if they decide to make more games like this. But honestly, in terms of the way the game is, I really like this game a lot, and it's definitely one of my favorite indie games this year. Number 7, Pokemon Legends ZA. I know there's going to be a lot of people in the comments section that may say, oh, why would you pick Pokemon ZA as one of your favorite games? It's not a very good game, it's terrible, it's one of the worst Pokemon games out there, Pokemon's dead. And listen, Pokemon ZA is actually not a bad game. And to be quite honest with you, which I agree with some people that Pokemon games have definitely declined in terms of quality. I wasn't really the biggest fan of Scarlet and Violet, and I was one of those people that actually think Scarlet and Violet is actually a piece of shit. Even though at the time when I actually made the list video where it was actually considered one of my favorite games of 2022, to be quite honest with you, I almost had kind of like a second opinion on that game. Which, to some degree, I mean, I do think it is a piece of shit, but at least it was somewhat enjoyable. Even though I don't agree with the DLC and how much the DLC was, and the content that was in the DLC, at least with Scarlet and Violet, it was somewhat enjoyable, so I can say it was decent, but it's still considered a piece of shit for what it is. But when it comes to how ZA is, even though ZA, I wasn't really a big fan of how the gameplay is originally, especially when the game first got announced and they showed a lot of the trailers and they showed off everything when it comes to a lot of the directs for it. And yes, to some degree, it is, obviously Pokemon games have really gotten shit over the years. But even though this game definitely looked like it was something that it didn't really look too promising to me, but I still was interested in playing it, which, yes, some people can say I'm a Pokemon chill, and people can say whatever the hell they want, but even though I still love the Pokemon series, and I always loved the Pokemon series to death, I still was interested in playing the game, despite the fact that I was sort of turned off from it. And after trying the game out, I do think the game is actually pretty good. It's not as good as Arceus by any means, even though Arceus I do think was a better game, especially the fact that you're not exactly grounded. In Arceus, you had a forest, you could just go around, there's different areas, you can catch Pokemon, you can level up. It felt more like it was more enjoyable in that sort of sense, where this one felt more grounded. You're basically stuck in a city and you're actually doing different missions, and how you level up your Pokemon, even though it's a lot of fun, but they still didn't exactly give you a lot more range to explore and everything. I kind of wish they could have gave you that option where you could explore a lot of the areas. But even then, the game is actually not bad, and it's definitely a game I would probably say out of the Pokemon series, it's still a pretty good game, and that's kind of why it's on this list, because I actually really enjoyed this game. And the story actually is not bad at all either. Actually, the story I thought was actually pretty interesting, and it was kind of nice to see that there was some recurring characters from X and Y and a lot of the characters that were in the previous game. So honestly, this game overall is pretty good. And yes, some people may not like the fact I put it on this list, but who cares? This game is pretty good, and I definitely think that if Pokemon starts making games like this again, where they start making them actually really well done, and actually make them a lot more better in terms of quality, then maybe perhaps we can get around to actually making good Pokemon games, but who knows? That's really up to Nintendo and the Pokemon Company if they actually can make really good, solid, good Pokemon games again. But at this point, I really hope they actually do, since they definitely owe that to a lot of the fans, and the fact that they just had really, really shitty games over, since Scarlet and Violet came out. Number 6, Silent Hill F. Over the years, in terms of the horror genre of games, I've always been sort of turned off from it. Mainly because of the fact that back in the day, I never used to play a lot of horror games. I think the horror games I've only played are some of the Resident Evil games, which kind of really got me into a lot of the horror games in general. I did play the original Resident Evil when it came to Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 4 especially when it was on the GameCube, but that was pretty much the only time I actually got to try a lot of the Resident Evil games. It didn't take about 7 years until I actually got around to actually really getting into a lot of the horror games. I think it's because I was in that horror itch that sort of got me really wanting to play a lot of horror games. What really got me was obviously with Resident Evil games, especially playing a lot of the remakes when they're on the PS4 and PS5, obviously. And no, I have not played the new Resident Evil Village, but when it comes to Silent Hill, and Silent Hill was one of those games that I had a hard time kind of getting into because there was too many games and the fact that I didn't exactly know which chronological order to actually get into. But when I found out that Silent Hill F, even though the game actually looked really good from the trailers and when it was first got announced, I didn't exactly know if the game actually was a spin-off or maybe perhaps it was a sequel, but then I looked up and it actually was a spin-off, which was kind of perfect, and especially the fact that you don't exactly have to know everything about Silent Hill in terms of the whole franchise to actually play this game. And after trying the game out, I gotta say this game was a fantastic horror game. And I usually don't say that a lot of horror games, but this was a fantastic horror game. From beginning to end, this game was just excellent, and the cinematics and the cutscenes and just basically the whole game itself I thought was just excellent. So honestly, I recommend anybody who's really into horror games to definitely check this game out because this is just a fantastic horror game to play this year. Number 5, Doom: The Dark Ages. I think for most of the shooting games I've played over the years, I think Doom is up there as one of my favorite games of all time. And the fact that the remake of Doom is actually excellent, even though it's a pain in the ass, but it's still a great game, especially with how difficult it is. And Eternal, especially with the difficulty, yes, but I do think the game is really good. But The Dark Ages, in my opinion, is a lot better than a lot of those games. The fact that you basically can go around and shoot a lot of the enemies, and the enemies are just brutal as hell, and everything about this game is just brutal. But then again, that's what Doom is notorious for, where it has a lot of the brutal bosses, and the weapons in here are just fantastic as well. They really up the antics when it comes to the weapons. The weapons in here I really enjoyed a lot. And this game, honestly, is definitely up there as one of my favorite shooters. So honestly, I recommend anybody to check out this game. If you're a big fan of Doom or any of the remakes, I definitely recommend you check this game out because this game is just fantastic. Bethesda did a great job making this game, and I really hope they continue making more Doom games like this. Number 4, Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Out of all the racing games that have come out this year, I gotta say Sonic Cross Worlds is probably my favorite one out of all the racing games. Even though I could have put Mario Kart World on here, and even though I do love Mario Kart World, but I felt it was only fair to actually put one racing game on this list, and that's gotta go to Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. Unfortunately, Mario Kart World, even though I love the game so much, unfortunately it lacks a lot of the content, it doesn't exactly have additional DLC, and it just feels like it was completely rushed, despite the fact that I really enjoy that game. But if I had to really pick between out of the two games that actually were a pretty good racing game, Crossroads is definitely up there as one of the best games this year. This game has so much that I probably would say is a lot better than what Mario Kart World was when it comes to the content, the DLC, the pretty much the characters from the racing to the areas and the season passes. Everything about this game, I feel like it has everything that I think Mario Kart World should definitely have. I think it's something that Nintendo definitely needs to work on if they're going to make that game sell. But when it comes to this game, I think Sega did a great job making this game for what it is. And I would probably say it's probably one of the better racing games that they did for Sonic. And the fact that they actually added like other characters from other previous IPs like SpongeBob, Mega Man, Pac-Man, other Nickelodeon characters, and everything else that they're actually going to add in the future, I feel like they definitely did a great job with it. And honestly, this is a really fun racing game, and the hours I put in this game I think is just ridiculous, but I still love it regardless. The game is just a lot of fun to play, and I highly recommend anybody who's really into Sonic, or perhaps maybe like any kind of racing game, to definitely play this game. Number 3, Donkey Kong Bonanza. Donkey Kong Bonanza was a game I was really surprised that I actually really enjoyed this year, especially the fact that Nintendo finally actually come out with a Donkey Kong 3D game. We haven't had a Donkey Kong 3D game since Donkey Kong 64, and that was actually a really good game, even though despite the fact that that game came out years ago. And ever since then, I only had a lot of the Donkey Kong Country games, and Nintendo actually revived the Donkey Kong Country games by coming out with Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze, even though I love both those games. But it felt like it was time for a 3D Donkey Kong game. We've been getting a lot of the Mario 3D games, and not to say I don't like any of the Mario games, even though I love all the Mario 3D games. But it felt like it was time for Donkey Kong to finally have his own 3D game. And honestly, this game, even though it serves as like that, it definitely was a great game. This game had so much that there was so much of the open environment that was really good. I really enjoy just punching through the walls and collecting gold and collecting a lot of the bananas and just doing a lot of objectives and missions. A lot of the hidden areas were just great as well. I even liked how you actually have Pauline out of all characters to kind of accompany you throughout the journey, and you have like different outfits and everything. It kind of really felt like a lot like Mario Odyssey, except it was Donkey Kong. Honestly, this game is just a great game, and honestly, the way you actually punch through walls and everything was so satisfying. It reminded me so much of Hulk Ultimate Destruction with how you just kind of punch through walls and punch through things. It was just great. It definitely reminded me so much of that game, only except it's in the Donkey Kong game. This game, honestly, is just fantastic, and everything about this game is great. Even though I have second opinions about the DLC, which is a whole different other discussion of itself, but even then, this game, it has everything that you would expect from a Donkey Kong game. This game is just fantastic, and I highly recommend anybody who really likes Nintendo games or just like Donkey Kong. This is just a great game. Number 2, Expedition 33. I know there's going to be some of you that probably think I'm trolling when I say that this game is my number 2, when this game could have actually been my favorite game this year. Unfortunately, this game wasn't exactly my favorite game this year, despite the fact that it could have been. To be honest with you, this game, even though I played a lot of hours into this game, and obviously the hype is over the roof for this game, especially the fact that this game won for Best Game of the Year for the Game Awards. Unfortunately, I don't exactly think that this game is my favorite game. Even though it is one of my favorite games this year, and it is number 2 for sure, because I really, really love this game. Unfortunately, I don't think it's my favorite game enough that I would probably put it up there as number 1. Luckily, in this case, this game is my second favorite game this year, and mainly because of the fact that I just really love this game a lot. I mean, honestly, even though some people are really diehard fans of this game, myself included. I mean, this game, from basically having no awareness about this game, like I had no idea about this game until I actually seen like the soundtrack and people talking about it on YouTube. That was probably the only time I've actually got to know a little bit about Expedition 33. And after trying the game out, this game just blew me away with how the graphics are, the cinematics to the characters, and the fact that gameplay just blew me away. I mean, this game pretty much is like an RPG, but it's like a platformer. It's literally just a mix of everything. If anything, it felt more like a Final Fantasy game, but it felt more like it was like a better Final Fantasy game. Despite the fact that I'm not the biggest Final Fantasy fan in general, but this game felt like it was a better Final Fantasy game. This game just had everything from the story, the characters, and just everything about this game was just great. I mean, honestly, I can understand why there's so many people that love Expedition 33, despite the fact that I sort of disagree with this game getting so many awards. I feel like this game should only had about 2 or 3, but then again, that's a whole different other discussion. I just really feel like this game got really overhyped in terms of the Game Awards. However, though, in terms of how the game is, the game in general is just a great game. And honestly, I just really enjoy this game a lot. From putting many hours to this game, it's just amazing. It's probably one of my favorite RPG games of all time. This game has like everything from the story, the characters, and even the opening scene with when you open up the game. The soundtrack is just breathtaking. Like the opening scene with the actual music, honestly, it definitely puts a tear in your eye. It is that good. Like the soundtrack in general is just really good. So honestly, for if you're gonna play any game from 2025, this is a game that you definitely gotta check out because yeah, the hype is there and it's way overhyped, but honestly, the hype is worth it because this game is just a great game to play and you will not be disappointed. It is a great game. And my number one favorite game of 2025 is Marvel Cosmic Invasion. That's right, Marvel Cosmic Invasion is my favorite game of 2025. This was a game I was really anticipated to play ever since it first got announced. From the same developers that worked on Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, this was a game I was really excited to play, especially the fact that they did a great job with Shredder's Revenge. This game pretty much looks like an arcade-style Marvel game that I've actually always wanted to see for the longest time. I've been a big fan of a lot of the Marvel arcade games for a long time, even with Maximum Carnage, the X-Men games, pretty much everything from the old school Marvel games I've been a big fan of. And the fact that Tribute Games made this into a Marvel game is just awesome. This game, I would spend hours and hours just playing it ever since I first got it. This game is just a lot of fun to play. The characters you get to play as, from Spider-Man, Hulk, Captain America, the Avengers, to the X-Men, to Wolverine, pretty much every single character from the Marvel Universe you get to play as every single one, and you basically beat a bunch of bosses in an arcade-style game. This game, honestly, is just awesome, and I honestly really want to see Tribute Games make a lot of great games like this. And I'm also really excited for the new Scott Pilgrim game that's coming out that they're developing. That game I'm super excited to play. And even after playing this game and Shredder's Revenge, I'm super excited to see anything that this developers actually made, especially for this kind of game. I am super excited for any game they're coming out with. Honestly, Cosmic Invasion, there's so much I could say about this game and how great this game is. But really, what is there to really say about this game? This game is just awesome. It is definitely my favorite game of 2025.